Morning, guys. Today I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about my first face tattoos, kind of where I was at when I got them, and how they've changed over the years, and tell a little bit about whether they were a good idea for me or how they impacted me, some of the stories of things that have happened since I got them. I first should say that when I got them, they were different than they are now. I did a video or two about this back in 2019, I guess it was. Some of the earliest videos on this channel even, when I had them redone. Now they were stars at one point, below my eyes here, kind of anti-eyebrow position. They were done there because I had anti-eyebrow piercings on both sides. They were done originally to cover the scars from my anti-eyebrow piercings. I had, for people who've seen my old pictures, I had like my eyebrows pierced like 17 and like 8 times. I used to have eyebrow piercings all the way across each eyebrow, and they just kept rejecting. Partly because eyebrow piercings don't stay well, and partly because I wore bad jewelry because I was young and dumb, kind of thing. So I built up a lot of scar tissue in there from multiple rejections, and they just never wanted to stay. Similar to my anti-eyebrow, only had those done one time each side, but they leave really nasty scars, and I don't really recommend them. Anyway, so I wanted to get some tattoos to cover over those because I already had lots of tattoos anyway, and I had tons of piercings and stuff, so face tattoos for me, they weren't really a deal breaker. This was back in 2011. So to get into what I did with that space, I put 2 little stars there. I had these stars all over my first bodysuit. They were a derivative off of my first ever tattoo, which I'll tell the story of another day. My first ever tattoo was my son's name. I had it done in a custom font, but it had 2 stars, or not 2 stars, it had several stars, shaped similar to the ones I got on my face. I also had those stars on my chest and below my belly button, and 2 of them on my hands. They were my first hand tattoos. I've had several hand tattoos since. And I had 2 of them on my ankles, the fronts of my ankles. So I had them all over the place. So it was just kind of an extension of that theme. I put them on my face. They fit. They covered the scar formation great. The only problem is they weren't really well done. The reason why they weren't really well done is because the artist I was working with, the same guy responsible for my chest and all of my current tattoos that I'm doing now, I was with him for a very long time at that point even. I was getting tattooed by him for 3 years already, and only him. He was the only one who had tattooed me at that point. I've been tattooed by around 20 artists now. But I was very faithful to my tattoo artist. I asked him to do them because he'd already done so many on me, and I'd known him for at that point I'd known him for about 6 years because my piercer worked at his shop before he tattooed me. I had followed my piercer to his shop when he moved over there, and I'd been seeing my piercer since 2001 at another shop in town. So I've known Rick by this point for about 5 years. So I thought it would be a safe bet to ask him to do them for me. And he's an old school guy, and he doesn't believe in doing face tattoos really. Even still today, he doesn't think that they're a great idea, and I think that's a really valid point to take. But for someone like me that had lots of piercings already and many tattoos already, visible tattoos, because I had 2 throat or like neck-ish tattoos by him. I had the 2 daggers. It didn't really make a lot of sense to deny me, but he did. He flat out said no. It wasn't even like a nice no. It was a, "Are you crazy? I'm not doing that." I felt really annoyed by that because at that point, I'd been working with him for a while, and I wasn't going to regret this. Like, it was like a good decision for me, not a bad decision. Like I said, I already had scars there. So I really wanted to figure that out. So when he told me no, that was kind of a deal breaker for me. And I actually didn't get tattooed by him again for another 6 years. I worked with all kinds of different artists that weren't as good as him, even just because he said no to me on something that I really wanted. And I put up with quite a bit of shit during those 3 years I was working with him too, because when he was a little younger, he wasn't as responsible as he is these days. And there was some times when I would be waiting for him outside his shop for hours to show up, and only to get a text from him, I'm not coming today, that kind of thing. So I put up with a lot of crap at that point, and I was a little annoyed that he wouldn't do the tattoos. So I did find someone who would do them for me, because you tell a guy like me no when it comes to tattoos or piercings, it doesn't mean no. It means that's a no from you. I'm still getting them done. Now, at that point, even then, that this is 10 years ago, crazy to think, face tattoos were even more unaccepted in society than they are now. Like that was a decade ago, and now they're starting to become a little more welcome. But a decade ago, they were a lot less socially acceptable than they are now. So finding someone who would do them on me wasn't easy. I did find someone that would do them on me, but not because he didn't have a problem with face tattoos or anything like that. Not because he was a forward-thinking individual. He was a guy with no scruples and almost no skill set, too. I basically found a basement scratcher who wasn't a basement scratcher. He had his own shop, but he wasn't a good artist at all, we'll say. He didn't put things in well, and he didn't design them well either. But he did what I asked him to do. Now, the first time I got them done, they were not done well, if I need to say that. A lot of the black didn't hold up. It wasn't super solid. So I had a lot of dropout in the middle of them and stuff. And there was no way I was going to walk around permanently with blown out, shoddy face tattoos. They're right on my face, right? So I was, okay, I'll get him to touch them up. No big deal. Well, by the time I was ready for touch-ups, he was already out of business in the city. Now, he didn't stay out of business. He ended up getting another shop in the city for a little while, but that one went under too. So anyway, I found this guy on Facebook, and I had to go to his house to get them done, and it was super awkward. It was the sketchiest tattoo I've ever had, because his lady or whoever he was staying with was bitching at him about not doing the dishes, and you didn't take the trash out the other day, like that kind of stuff, in a bathrobe. And it was sterile, but like it was super awkward. He did touch them up, and they were solid at the end of it, but they were never that nice looking. Like, they were always kind of bad. But whatever. At the time, getting my face tattoo meant a lot to me, because that year I had been going through sort of like an identity crisis. I had some really bad relationships when I was younger, and one of them, when it fell apart, we were each other's world at that point. My second fiance and I had a very toxic relationship in which everything I had, I invested in her, and likewise. So when we split up very viscerally, it was a really bad end. I went on a bit of a self-destructive, toxic love kind of thing, where I met another girl who was bad for me, and it was really, really not a good situation. And after that relationship ended, I kind of just wanted to blend in, and I thought maybe if I looked normal, I could find, a better relationship or something, or it would be easier for me to find partnership or something. So for about 6 months, I was kind of thinking about taking out my piercings, and I was kind of thinking about trying to normalize myself because at that point I didn't have too many tattoos to where I couldn't, play it off a little less like edgy or a little less alternative. So I was kind of thinking about, should I just call it a quit call it quits with all this stuff. I've been doing it my whole life, but where has it got me, kind of thing. And then kind of all at once I thought, no, that's not me. That's not me, and I need to stop. I need to never think this way again. Because, like, if I were to find someone who liked a version of me that was less who I was, that's not a real relationship anyway. That's not a good partner for me if they only like me when I'm not being me. And that was when I kind of was like, you know what? I am this. This is me. I am an alternative. I'm gothic. I'm whatever. I have been my whole life. I'm going to express myself, and I'm going to make it hard for me to turn away from, too. So when I got my face tattooed, it was kind of like I'm making a commitment to myself that I'm going to see every day very, very like concretely and very visually right there that I am different. I'm a weirdo, I'm whatever, and that's never going to change. So I needed to put that somewhere that no matter what crazy point I was in my life, I would have to reckon with that. I wanted it to be a hindrance and to me in some way. I wanted it to be like a commitment that I couldn't back away from. I needed that to ground me in my choices at that point. As strange as that may sound, I really needed that anchor to my past and like remember who you are and remember what you are and who you've been. And remember, you've been successful even at that point. I was financially well off enough to take care of myself, and I had my son already and all these things. So I needed to remember that despite the way I looked, I made a success of myself, and I did not run from that. I need to embrace it. So those were some of the most important tattoos I ever got. Even though they weren't the best done, what they meant was why I got them done. To get back to the face tattoos themselves, for that little tangent, I ended up having to get them touched up one more time by another artist just because face tattoos get a lot of sun exposure, so they do fade quite a bit. Lots of people, I've even seen it with my wife. She got a little moon tattoo on the side of her face, and it's had dropout, and that's very typical of fresh face tattoos, is that they'll need at least one touch-up to be solid. Something about the skin type, the callous nature of the face, and the sun exposure requires touch-ups. So anyway, I had them touched up again. And then after that, I got dermals in them, because I already have face tattoos. I may as well, at that point, I may as well decorate them and kind of play in the mud a little. Kind of take the piss a little, where it's like, yeah, I have face tattoos and I have piercings in them. Deal with it. So that was fun. The dermals only lasted for 2 years. I had to constantly kind of reinsert them. Like, it's a technique where you sleep with face band-aids on, and it kind of like pushes them back in place a little. Because dermals are always kind of trying to migrate. I don't really recommend them, but whatever. It's a learning experience. I don't regret those either. But when those left, I had little tiny dermal scars in the center of my stars, and I had to wait a few months, and then I touched them up again. So that's 4 times I've had those stars worked on at that point. Fast forward a little while to 2019, and I was working with Lee for quite a while, and we had started the big blackout project. We'd already blacked out one of my arms, but my Instagram was starting to really take off, and it was Lee's idea, because he was looking at me one day during a session. He's like, for where you are and like for what you're becoming online and all these things, like I want to do something better for you for your face tattoos, because those stars are just bugging me. And they were bugging me too, but like I thought they were what they were, and they weren't going to get any better than that. But as I've made a few videos about this topic already, I'll just lightly brush on it, that Lee came up with an idea to fix them in a way and make them work with what I had going on otherwise. So he just found some silhouettes, roses, and he masked the old stars and fit the roses around the points of the stars so that they wouldn't show up. So the stars are actually not really even covered up. They're just like there's a design added around them. So yeah, so the stars are basically, they weren't even really covered up so much as they were hidden. And then obviously the branch of the roses to further kind of make them more distinct and stuff. And if you could see the old star in there at all, this way you wouldn't. It's how you do cover-ups is you distract away from the old scarred image or whatever. You don't necessarily get rid of it. A lot of times you just incorporate it into the new image in a way that it blends and trick of the eye, right? Where you don't see the old tattoo underneath anymore. So that was all Lee, and I'm forever thankful to him for that, because especially for what these tattoos meant for me, it's nice that they look nicer now. Still today, if I could take it all back, and this is not a regret, like I'm not like, oh shit, I wish I did it different, this sucks. But I would have never got the anti-eyebrow piercings. But at the same time, I do like that I made that commitment to myself at that point in my life that these tattoos were forever and I couldn't hide from them. I couldn't run from them. And no matter where I was in my love life or in my financial life or whatever, I had already made a commitment to myself that barring laser, I wasn't going to get away from. And it really helped ground me in my choices and solidify my decisions. And I think it made me more confident in my choices too. It made me more aware of the consequences, and just really, it was the first time I think I really did something that I felt was permanent. And because everyone thinks, oh, all tattoos are permanent. I've clearly shown that's not true. But you start messing with your face, one way or the other, you're going to get into complications. Because even if you lasered off, you'd have to laser these off multiple times because they're solid black. And there'd always be scar formation and design there. You'd have to do something with them. You'd have to cover them with something or whatever. You're not getting away from face tattoos that easily. So that was the point, was to anchor myself in this lifestyle in a way that was more permanent than any piercing I was going to get. Because as we know, we can take piercings out. Even Big Labret can be sewn up, and you can almost not notice that it was there. But having face tattoos means more. It means a decision you've made to yourself for whatever reason, and despite the consequences. So anyway, I'm not going to get too much more into it than that. I did make another little video about this one time recently, but I didn't get into the meat and potatoes of why I did this. And I felt like if I'm going to make this video, and I never actually posted that one because I felt bad about not explaining the full reason. I didn't tell the story of my bit of an identity crisis that I went through, because I think that we all come to those points, but we don't really think about other people coming to those points ourselves, because no one wants to discuss that. No one wants to feel vulnerable or show that off. And I feel like that's part of the problem with having those emotions, is that because we're in a world where people don't like to be vulnerable, we assume that we're the only ones that have felt that way. So I felt like it was important that if you're watching my videos and you want these stories, that I give you the correct information and the full story. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.